For asylum seekers detained in Australia's offshore detention centres on Nauru and Manus Island, the last 2 years has been a very different story. In November 2013, I went with Amnesty International to investigate human rights abuses at the Manus Island detention centre. There, I met a young Muslim man from Burma, one of around, at the time, 1,100 people detained on Manus Island for trying to seek safety in Australia. He told us that 2 years ago in his life, he and his father were travelling to the city of Yangon in Burma. On their way, a crowd of 300 people blocked the road. They took all of the Muslims from the bus and made them lay on the ground. They began to beat his father. His father shouted to him to run away, and he did. He was pursued by a man on a motorbike who attacked him with a large stick, damaging his knee badly. The man said to him, "This is our country, not your country." He managed to escape though, and made it home. He waited the rest of the day for his father to return, but he didn't. He learned that later that day, his father had been killed, along with all the other people who had been pulled from the bus. His mother ordered him to leave. With no rights in other countries in the Asia Pacific, he boarded a boat for Australia, arriving at Christmas Island soon after the introduction of Kevin Rudd's offshore detention and resettlement policy. He was sent by force to the Manus Island detention centre. For the last 2 years, that young man has been detained with hundreds of others on Manus Island. I've been there. The centre is very much like an outdoor prison, but without most of the luxuries that even prisoners enjoy. It's swelteringly hot, oppressively humid. There was no privacy, no freedom. Healthcare was utterly inadequate. The living areas were horribly cramped, and with only a few dozen toilets, showers and washing machines for the more than 1,000 men, it was repulsively dirty and smelly. Contact with the outside world was close to non-existent. One young man told us his daily routine while in detention. He said, "I get about 4 to 5 hours sleep a night due to tension and having nothing to keep me busy. I'm just thinking and thinking through the night. I'm mostly thinking about how I can't do anything for my family. I sleep from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. I get up to pray at 4 a.m. I go back to bed. I miss breakfast. I get up again at 9 a.m. I shower, though the water pressure is low and the showers are very dirty. I asked G4S about fixing the water pressure, but they told me to go home if I wanted to have a good shower. I used to attend English classes, but now I miss them. So I sit and I discuss with friends what is happening to us, and we all worry about what will happen in the future." There are still, almost 18 months after I visited Manus Island, 989 men detained there. For the vast majority of the men there, this crushing daily monotony has been broken only by their protest for freedom and the horrifying violence that led to the killing of Reza Barati, a crime that more than a year on has not resulted in any prosecutions. I wish that I could tell you what I saw at Australia's detention centre on Nauru, but when we requested access there, the government of Nauru told us that our visit may appear premature. I don't know what that means either. The second and third times that we requested access, we simply got no reply. But thank you to those who have spoken out on this issue, thanks to the reports by the Australian Human Rights Commission, the Moss Inquiry, and the bravery of whistleblowers. The truth has overcome the fences, and the government's relentless PR machine. We now know that the detention centre holds 718 people, including 103 children. It sits on the site of an open-pit phosphate mine. The average temperature on Nauru is 31 degrees, but inside the tents, where up to 15 families can live in each marquee, temperatures regularly reach 45 to 50 degrees. With fabric walls, there's little privacy or security, but plenty of exposure to the rain and mould. Healthcare is rudimentary, with children and pregnant women being put at serious risk by the lack of proper healthcare facilities. And we also have decades of research and evidence that tells us one thing: detention harms children. After 2 years in detention, children display a 10-fold increase in psychiatric disorders, and we're nearing that 2-year mark for many of the children detained. Self-harm and attempted suicide is increasingly common among those children. And now, we hear the Moss Review's report, which has uncovered numerous cases of physical and sexual assault of children and women. Not only that, but the evidence is mounting that the government may have been aware of these assaults for more than a year and did nothing to protect the people detained on Nauru until the media shone a spotlight on that issue. What's more, the police on Nauru lack the capacity to investigate these crimes or bring the perpetrators to justice. And if refugees are released into the community on Nauru, they're faced with two stark options. Stay on Nauru, a small, under-resourced island, or go to Cambodia, a country that recently returned at least 45 asylum seekers to Vietnam, the country that they had fled from. A country where refugees are currently denied basic services, documentation proving residency, and access to citizenship. And the problems aren't just offshore. On every front, the government is demolishing the hard-won rights of refugees and asylum seekers. They're introducing laws that would allow security staff in detention centres to commit GBH against asylum seekers. That is more power than the police or prison guards have. Turning back boats of asylum seekers in secret, even going so far as to return them to the countries that they have fled from, like Vietnam and Sri Lanka. Introducing temporary protection visas, a failed policy, and shoddy fast-track processing of asylum claims. Offering no legal support for people as they navigate the complex asylum process, often in a language they do not even speak.